Here's how to lift your 120, 130 pound scooter without actually lifting it. Take a couple breaths and we'll get started, guys. This scooter will put you out of breath while you're riding it, I'll tell you that. It's not too often, maybe twice a year, that I get a scooter that blows my mind, but this is one of them, let me tell you guys. This is like a Cabo Wolf on steroids. Today in this review, we're gonna talk about how this scooter rides, specifically the acceleration, how does it feel, the braking, is it in control, the suspension, and what is the improvements they've made with this BMW Telelever Suspension, and finally the build quality. I've only had this scooter a couple weeks. I've ridden it 300-400 miles at this point. We'll check the dash. But as far as build quality goes, it seems to be extremely good, but time will tell on that. For this scooter, obviously it's the end of the year. Unfortunately, it's the winter, and I'm not gonna have a ton of time to ride this and put in miles until next spring. So as far as the last aspect, the build quality, we'll compare that in a later video coming in next spring. For now, we're gonna focus on the acceleration, the braking, and the suspension. And we're gonna compare it to the Wolf King GT Pro I have sitting over here. Compare it also at the end of the video with the InMotion RS that is currently my favorite scooter, and see how it stacks up with the GTR. I already know this is gonna be a pretty long video just because this scooter is expensive and it has a lot of features. Bear with me and let's check this thing out. This video will probably be over half an hour, if not 45 minutes, just because this scooter has a lot of new features that we need to talk about. And we're gonna go in depth on this suspension. We're gonna go in depth on a fire extinguisher here inside. These nut brakes that are using a 3mm disc, so they are superior to most nut brakes out there. Really great stopping power. We'll also talk about this awesome camo look. You can also get the scooter in black, but this camo look is one of a kind. I could not pass this up. Sort of army style to me. Really, really looks nice. Before we get deep in this scooter, let's also talk about the power quick. This is an extremely powerful scooter, the most powerful scooter in my garage right now. It has 65 amp controllers. That's crazy. 65 amps times 2 times 84 volts means this thing is pushing almost 11,000 peak watts. That is madness. This scooter is so strong and it rips. If you guys know me, obviously I had to put on the PMT slicks already. Got it ready to go. This scooter is fully upgraded. Having an absolute blast on the scooter. It pulls insanely fast, and we're not gonna get really good statistics on this scooter till the spring because, like I said, unfortunately it's winter right now. These things aren't even giving me the full power that it will have in the summer when under ideal temperatures, right? So we're gonna have to come back and do some retesting in the spring. We will test this scooter versus the RS. So come back for that. It's gonna be a good race. This scooter is gonna give it a run for its money, but I do think that they're both extremely good. 10 out of 10 for me at this point. Cliff notes, this scooter here is amazing. It's a bit more of a cruiser than the RS. So if you're looking for something more of a racing scooter for corners, I'd still select the RS down here. But for cruising at high speeds on roads and stuff, this is a great, fantastic scooter too. It is really good. A little bit higher clearance, the weight's a little higher and everything, with a little more room to get over stuff. Not that you need that, and not that the RS is too low, but definitely for you bigger people, I think this is a scooter for you. The RS, at the end of the day, I still think it's for shorter people. You're gonna feel a lot better with it because it's just built for that, right? But this, we'll do some measurements and compare and see exactly here why I think this is better for bigger people. As usual, we'll start from the top up here and work our way down. So this scooter comes with an NFC chip that acts as a kill switch, meaning that if there's no white light here, you can't turn the scooter on. You have to use this to unlock, get the white light, then we can turn our scooter on. Once it's on, we just have to put in 0000, that's our stock code, and it'll unlock. I usually click it up all the way to gear 5. As you see, we're at about 284 miles. I'm gonna put in a few more rides here, but it's not looking good for the rest of the year. Maybe like 5-10 more rides before winter really comes in here, and I'll end up winterizing this scooter. I'm not gonna ride this in snow or do anything crazy with it because it's a super nice scooter. I wanna take care of it and ride it in the spring. This has a nice button pad here. You can turn the scooter on and your plus and minus in your mode. Our mode on this is gonna let us see quite a few different things. This is kind of cool. You can see your watts as they're being used. Barely uses any on freewheel, but it's kind of cool when you're out riding. You can see like pulls about 4,000 or 5,000 watts per wheel under peak load, depending how full your battery is. In addition to watts and your odometer, it also keeps track of your max speed, which this was a freewheel speed. That's not what we actually got on the scooter, and your average speed as well. We have our trip time and our trip distance. Lots of information on this. And what I really like about this screen is there's this red bar here and this green bar here. This is your battery bar. This is your power consumption bar. So you see it kind of goes up as you're using it, and then the battery will drop as you're using it. And so it's just an easy way to see things visually. Good resolution, and you can see it in the daytime pretty well. It's bright enough for me. Standard button cluster here. You see this on a lot of scooters. It's gonna have our headlight, our blinker. It says a very loud beeper on it, which I might actually put a horn on this scooter. Seeing as it's such a road scooter, I might put a horn on it too and get rid of the beeper. We'll see about that. Let me show you the blinkers here quick. Here's our rear blinker. You can see it pretty well. See this blinker here in the front? Very similar to the RS blinkers over there, but this is actually an upgrade for this Gspace GTR. I know a lot of you guys are gonna have this question about the T-Wing XTR and if it's the same scooter, blah, blah, blah. And it is, it's the same company. It's just their distributor who was selling scooters in the US first. And now they've brought the Gspace brand as well here. So both brands, they're working in connection and they are the same scooter. The only difference, according to them, is this blinker right here. So you do get a front blinker on this, where on the GTR, it might not come on its stock, but I'm pretty sure they can send it to you at this point. You can add it maybe. I'm not exactly sure. Maybe you need to add a new wiring harness too, but I think it's something you could add to the XTR. It's not like I'm talking down on that scooter at all. They are the same scooter. While we got our headlight on, let's talk about it. Pretty bright. I've ridden at night, I think once, but like I said, it's really cold out right now and I'm not gonna be riding at night till next summer. Moving over farther, we have the NFC reader here. A pretty standard looking NFC reader you got like on the Nami and a couple other scooters I can't even remember I've tested at this point. You're really only gonna use it if you're going into like, you know, taking it to a store or something and you really wanna lock it up with some security. Because I don't even ever use the chip. I just use the button all the time, turn the scooter on and off with the button. It works great. You still have the code, which, I mean, most people in the grocery store, if they're trying to steal this, they're not gonna understand right here what to do, even though it is as simple as just hitting this button 4 times. So there's a bit of security there, a little bit, even if you don't wanna use the NFC chip. I always talk about this handlebar in my videos. If you're new here, this is like $15 on Aliexpress, $40 on Amazon. I put it on basically every good scooter. Got it on the Awesome, the Go Tracks, both in motions. And of course on this. I've got 5 scooters with this handlebar on right now. It is a very good upgrade, cheap upgrade. And the main thing is it gets your hands a little bit farther out. Whereas, you know, the shorter handlebars, when you're in like this, it's not quite as stable at high speeds. Your turning's not quite as precise. So it is a huge benefit to get a little farther out. Plus, who doesn't like just a beautiful carbon fiber, you know? That's just a nice upgrade, totally worth doing it. Moving over a little more, wide rides, that's where I get all my PMT tires. We'll talk about those in a bit here down below. Blinkers we've talked about. This is an Eco Turbo button. It's gonna basically make it speed limited when you're in eco mode, very, very slow, versus full power when you're in turbo. Single dual, that should be self-explanatory at this point for all you scooter guys. Single mode, it's just gonna be rear wheel. Dual mode, double wheel, both motors. I usually just ride it in single and in turbo at all times, and you sort of learn to control the power. Now let's get over to the throttle. If you guys have watched my other videos recently, this is on the Splash, the Tiger King, a couple other scooters. It is a good throttle. I really like it. It's comfortable to use. It's concave, so it fits your thumb. Ergonomic enough for me. Now let's do a little throttle mapping test. This is where, if you're new here, pause to read, but we're going to slowly test from 1 mile an hour all the way up and see how well this can hold speed. And this is, I mind you, on max settings, 11,000 watts. This might not go well. Let's see. Bit of a dead zone there, and we're already slowly creeping right now. We're slowly creeping. Look at that slow, slow, slow creep. I'm not gonna cut the video so you guys just know I'm not cheating. But look at that. This is the slowest little creep I've ever seen on a scooter. That's amazing, actually. I didn't know that was gonna happen. Anyways, we'll continue our creep at 0.8. That is impressive. All right, see if we can get it back in focus here and get to our test. We're gonna try and go up 1 mile an hour. 1, 2, 3. 3.6, 4, 4.5, 5. This is so good. 6, 6.5, 7. It's going up in half mile per hour, guys. That's never happened before. This is a very, very well mapped throttle. 7. 8. My finger's already getting tired though. 9. 10. 11. 12. 13. 14. Oh, we got a little rubbing in our brake back here. 15, 16, 17, try and get 18, 18, 19. This is amazing. This is the best throttle mapping I've really ever tested, I think. We might have to retest the RS just to see how close it is to this. 20. 21, 22, 23, 24. It's hard to move your finger in this small of increments and hold it for this long. It's been like 2 minutes. 25. My ADD is starting to kick in, and we're just about to call this the best throttle map scooter I've ever tested. This is good enough for me. 29, 29 and a half, 30, 'I want to floor it so bad. It's not quite in balance at that speed on the stand. Like most scooters, even the RS sounds out of balance like that too when you go full throttle. It's like dry firing a bow. You're not really supposed to do that, but we just do it for fun anyways. Now, biggest selling point on this to me, dual stem. This is a tried and true thing. Obviously the Wolf Warrior is an iconic scooter that I've had a lot of problems with mine over here, but a lot of people love that scooter. And why? Because it's dual stem. These dual stems are extremely rigid, strong. There's no flex or handlebar play or movement or anything in this scooter. It's built like a brick shithouse. Honestly, right now we're kind of lucky. We even have this VSET 11 Plus over here that I've been working on. It's my buddy's. Another iconic 11-inch scooter that, to me, this Mars here is pretty much a combination of these two scooters. It's sort of like a Wolf and a VSET. Both of the best qualities of both combined into one scooter. And it's sort of eliminates both of them. These brands are probably mad for me of even saying that, but this thing definitely makes the Wolf obsolete. The V-Set still may have a slightly more comfortable suspension. I'm not quite sure. That rear end is something special with the dual springs. It's extremely soft and comfortable. But this might be right there with it. They might both be my favorite suspensions, be just tied with it. You know what I mean? Just really, really comfortable. All three of these scooters though, they're a bit more like stair steppers. And I know a lot of you are gonna ask me to like compare it with these RSs, and to me these are so low to the ground, like you basically barely even raise your foot up when you step on it. It's a lot more, it feels like I'm riding on a magic carpet or something, compared to this where I'm sort of stepping up onto like a Jeep. This is like a big Jeep sort of feeling when you're on this. And so it's not like this is necessarily better than the RS or the RS is better than this. It's going to depend on your riding scenarios a lot and what your body type is. I think bigger, taller people may prefer this. Shorter, smaller people are going to prefer the RS just from that step up. The amount of step up and height difference in this. It's almost a workout riding this scooter just from the amount you have to step up every time you get up and off and back on it. But obviously one of the reasons I love the RSs over here is it's also dual stem. You can't quite see it, all our bags are holding it up, but dual stem honestly is the way to go for big fast scooters. If you're riding a big fast scooter, there's pretty much no reason not to have a dual stem at this point. I know Namis are still very popular, single stem with a carbon fiber stem. That's almost like a bit of an exception just because carbon fiber is that good of a material. But in most cases, you're gonna just want to go dual stem all the way. And so this scooter, it gives everything else a run for its money. And especially at this price point of $3,400 whatever dollars, this is a tough scooter to pass up, in my opinion. Now, when you get this scooter, it's gonna come like halfway assembled. It's so heavy, they actually put it in 2 different boxes, and a bunch of the stuff comes in a different box, including like this and these clamps. And you will assemble that a bit when you put it together. It takes an hour, but at the end of the day, it's fine. It's stuff that you would have probably wanted to check that it's tight anyways. So it's stuff that really, it's good to know all your bolts on your scooter yourself and tighten everything down and be confident in what you're riding. This is a deer whistle. Ignore that. I added it myself. I think it fits well on this camo scooter, just in case, you know, we get in any deer situations this deer season. Now this metal grill right here, I really like this thing. Not only is it going to protect stuff in a wreck, right, or whatever, but looks cool, stylish, you know. It's like almost like a fairing piece, I would call it. And you can see a lot of other scooters starting to move towards this too, and having full fairings that go all the way up kind of. And we'll see. I do like definitely metal over the plastic. This scooter over here has like fairings on it too, but it's just plastic and cheap. So it's super nice to see them with this metal. It's even like painted pretty well. Let's get into this extra suspension here. So if you look at the Wolf or the V-Set, they just have standard front forks, which luckily I've got one here we can look at. One second. So this is your standard front fork. And in most cases, when you hit a bump, it's gonna push up and then it's gonna slowly dampen down. In this scooter's case, as it compresses up, it's also getting compressed back downwards from this. When this actually matters is when you're braking, when you hit a hard brake. So on this Wolf or this V-Set, if you can imagine when you're going along and you hit, let me straighten my handlebars a little bit, we're going crazy here. On those other scooters, when you're going along and you slam on the brakes, your front end is going to dip forward significantly. And it's very noticeable on those scooters. When you slam on the brakes, the front end dips forward. And what this suspension does on this scooter is it fights that front end dip. And it actually keeps it, I'd say, about 50% less dip. It doesn't completely eliminate it, which you wouldn't want to eliminate anyways. It's all part of the suspension movement. But it gets rid of the majority of it, in my opinion. And it gives you a lot better road feel when you slam it on the brakes and taking a corner. So when you're taking a corner, it's going to impact your suspension. And when you're slamming on the brakes and it compresses it, it's gonna really impact your ability to take that corner. However, with this scooter, since it's fighting that extra compression when you're entering the corner with your brakes, it's gonna even it out a little more, and the corner is gonna be a lot more agile. I do think this could be a really good racing scooter, but I do think it's a little high. And it could just be me, but the clearance is high, the weight is high. So for me, it is fantastic on the road, but for racing, I do think that the RS would smoke it every day of the week, just because it's so much lower and it can take corners a lot more agile than this. You can look at the rear suspension here too. At first glance, it just looks like a normal suspension, but it actually has like an extra linkage piece that is supposed to also make this a bit superior. Now, do I fully understand what the rear end is doing? Not yet. I'll have to do some more research on the rear end, but as far as the front end, I will link an article I was reading about the BMW Telelever Suspension, because this is just a known invention. They invented this, I think, in the 80s. This is something that they've brought to motorcycles, and it's something that it was inevitable to come to scooters eventually, just because it's a really good design. Let's talk about the tires here quick. Obviously, I upgraded these. These are PMT slicks, and the size is the 100 millimeter. I went with the 100s on this. They're a little bit thinner this way, just to try it out, because from what I've heard, thinner tires should have a little bit better cornering, right? I should be able to take tighter corners than if it's a wider tire. And I've always got the 110s. Just wanted to see if the cornering is really any better with these, or if it's just the same difference to me. In general, we have two types of tires for electric scooters. We have what's called radial. The only type of radials are made by a brand called PMT. All other scooter tires on the market, essentially, these are called nylon bias ply. The difference is in the construction, where on these bias plies you can see that the strands of nylon are going at a crisscross at an angle, whereas on this radial, everything's going perpendicular here in straight lines. Originally, all tires were bias ply nylon tires until I believe about 1960 or 1980, when radial tires were invented. And when that happened, bias ply tires basically went obsolete. And it's weird that we even use these on scooter tires. Why would we still do that? Why would I put something like that on my buddy's scooter? The reason is in the sidewalls. So these sidewalls on the bias ply are extremely stiff, and what they do is they give you added support. And my buddy's a bigger guy. He weighs quite a bit. He's not even near the upper limits of the scooter. You know, he probably has 50 pounds below the weight limit of the scooter. We've tried putting PMTs several times, and he kept getting flats. He kept getting flats. I think this is actually his old tire. He kept getting flats. And why? It's because when you have this type of tire and the radial, the sidewalls are not stiff. They're very flexible, and they're meant to be that way because they bend when they hit road imperfections and they smooth out the road. It's almost like an extra added suspension if you think about it that way. But for a bigger guy, for heavy loads, it's not realistic, because every time he hits a big, huge bump, it's compressing. And on his scooter, it's split rim, so it's running tubes as well. That's part of the issue. But at the end of the day, we couldn't run PMTs with tubes for him on that scooter. It was giving too many problems. And so we switched. We switched to these bias ply tires, right? And like I said, we put the ones on from this scooter because I do actually like them. They're some of the best bias ply I've tried yet. So if you do buy the scooter and you're not trying to like be a tire snob like me and change the tires right away, you will definitely get your full use out of these tires. They're nice and round profile, so you do have great cornering still and good traction all around. I mean, obviously you could ride these off-road. They're pretty knobby, but they're also smooth enough for the road and for the power of the scooter. And at the end of the day, that's where you're at. This scooter is insanely powerful, and you got to remember that. So you're going to be peeling out. That front tire is going to wear out quick. The back tire is going to wear out quick too, but not quite as quick. To me, if you're a lighter weight person, I'm not even super heavy, 200 pounds, 250 even, I think you'd be fine on these. Get the PMTs. It's worth the upgrade. It's gonna give you even better cornering. When you look at this, just insane grip. And these are really quiet too. That's like the big benefit, is they're just really efficient. These tires weigh about twice as much as these. The motors have to work a little harder. They're gonna get a little hotter compared to this. It's just more efficient. Look, I may have been saying some misinformation for a while. I don't know who told me that these are fake plastic, nylon, not even rubber. I mean, I do think they're both rubber, but this is a superior compound, and anybody that's ridden these T41 slicks knows what I'm talking about. This is just the best scooter tire you can get. So if you got the money and the patience to change the tires, I would get the slicks. If you're gonna be riding in some sort of weather ever or wetness, this is the other option. Same thing as the slicks, just with some grooves. They call this the Throttle. Same exact tire, just has grooves in it. Those are the best two options I would put right here. Unless you're a heavier rider, you're going with this. And then let's talk about off-roading tires really quick too. Obviously you can get something like this, knobby, put it on there. For off-roading, you're not gonna find that in PMT because they're radials, they're meant for roads. You really want a bias-plied nylon for off-roading. It's better for off-roading because the sidewall, like I was saying, it's gonna resist punctures, it's gonna hold up to major abuse when you're out slamming this thing. A lot more longevity in those type of situations where this will probably go flat almost right away if you're off-roading. It's just not meant for off-roading. But on-road, that's when these shine. So like I said, the tire you're gonna choose really depends. You don't know probably even what your riding style is gonna be like until you go out and explore your area some more with the scooter and see what you got around there, see what you're gonna be riding on. Because I think a lot of people get these sort of scooters and they're like, I'm gonna go off-road it a lot, and they think they're gonna do this, but then they end up riding almost fully on the street, and this turns out to be the option that they should have chose. Don't fool yourself into thinking you're gonna be an off-road maniac. Just because it has a great suspension doesn't mean it's off-road suspension, okay? Which, let's talk about that really quick. It looks off-road capable, and I'm sure it could handle, but will I be off-roading the scooter? Probably not. It's extremely fast and powerful. To me, it's meant for smoking cars out on the strip, you know what I mean? It's not for taking off-road and beating it up and getting all dirty. I'm, in fact, gonna keep this very clean and make sure it runs perfectly so that when I'm going 60, 65, I know I can rely on the brakes and stuff like that. It's a different scooter when you're going for high speed versus when you're going for off-road, and you really got to think about what you're going to use it for. Now let's talk about these brakes really quick. I know I mentioned really quickly in the intro about these brakes that they're 3mm discs. I actually tried to put a new disc on that was 2mm when I noticed. I didn't even notice really when I was riding it, but they are quite strong. They're plenty sufficient. That thickness of the disc is going to matter with your wear. It's going to make it last a lot longer having a 3mm disc here versus this scooter. The V-Set still has 2mm discs. This thickness matters. It should also have superior cooling while you're braking. And here, just to show you what the handle itself, really nice brakes. I'm not sure, I haven't seen this model of nut brake before, but it is a newer upgraded model of some kind because it is able to fit that fatter disc, which you can't fit the fatter disc on a normal nut brake up here. So this is a good upgrade. As far as the e-braking itself, I have it turned down pretty low just because these brakes are great, very sufficient braking, and the e-braking itself is smooth, a lot smoother than that Wolf over there is a nightmare almost. When the braking kicks in, it flips you forward real hard, and then since it doesn't have this, the front end just dips, like crazy amount of front dip on that scooter because of this sort of two things working in conjunction with each other just to exacerbate the issue. Now, when I first got this, you can kind of see this little thing in here. I almost thought it was like a steering damper just because how it is. It's like kind of inside the front here. And I asked them, it's something that you can't adjust it, so don't try. It's essentially just a bearing in there that allows this whole thing to pivot as the suspension's moving. Now, obviously the folding mechanism on this is just these clamps. I do prefer this. I definitely prefer this over the Wolf over here. The folding mechanism, if you can see where I'm pointing, is kind of built in to the actual like main components of the frame, whereas this part is all one solid piece here, and it doesn't actually fold until up above, right up above all of this. So this whole part is very secure, and it's not going to come unfolded or any nonsense. Just like the V-Set, the same way the clamps are up above of all of the headset and the suspension and everything, so that's all just separated. You don't want to have this sort of setup going where the whole thing folds and the whole thing has a failure point just because of your design. Now let's move down to the deck. This does have a massive 45 amp hour battery. So that's gonna be 72 times 45 equals, bam, that many watt hours. It's a big scooter battery, biggest scooter battery that I have. I think the closest obviously would be the 40 amp hour InMotion RS. This 45, slightly bigger. That's what, an extra 1/8 capacity, 12.5%. Decent amount more in range. Does it matter? I don't think so. I think most people, including me even, I can't even ride the RS to its full capacity, let alone this scooter. But it is nice having extra range to where you get back and the scooter still has 30, 40, 50%, and you don't ever think about if it's gonna die on you. I've never had range anxiety on the scooter, and that is definitely a good thing. If you got the money, buy a big ass battery, just so you never have to worry about it. The charging is decently fast. It's 6 amp charging, which would work out to 45 divided by 6, 7.5 hours from dead. But like I said, you're rarely charging it from dead. You usually ride about half, so you'll have it recharged within a couple hours, 3 hours tops. It'll be charged up again, ready to go for most people. I mean, if you're a real scooter addict, I think you might ride this 50 miles a day and get back with the actual dead battery. But it's gonna take you 2 hours and it's gonna be like your only ride for the day. You're not gonna go do it again, you know what I mean? So the battery is amazing on this. Definitely worth the money alone for the battery. It's the biggest battery I've had yet. Some special stuff along with this battery. It does have this plug here that you can plug a converter in. So say you're out camping or on a trip or whatever and you want to power some electronics, that you can plug the converter in here and power it. It also has this blow off valve right here, which is allegedly for a fire extinguisher that is supposed to sense if the battery starts on fire and go off inside the battery case here. So that is a huge innovation. If you guys are familiar with scooters, e-bikes, whatever, there's always been that slight chance of battery fire. Even with UL rated batteries, there is always a chance of an issue. So maybe this is the future. This is the way around it. Good quality battery with good cells and with a good BMS. Maybe we also include a fire extinguisher built into the device so that should anything happen, we're protected. None of these other scooters out here have that, so it's not like it's gonna make a difference in my situation if one of these scooters goes on fire, but it will at least save this one and stop anything from spreading. And if you live in a house, in a family, like luckily my garage here is not attached to where I'm sleeping or anybody's sleeping, and so if it did catch on fire, nobody's gonna die here. But I know a lot of you are different, and if you have kids in the house and your garage is attached to your house or something, this is just like an extra safety measure, extra peace of mind that if it's sitting in your garage and it goes up for some reason, it should at least help put it out. Now, I'm not gonna be the guy to test that. I'm not gonna like start this on fire and see if it works. Maybe I could ask them if we could do that. I don't know, this video would have to get 1 million likes, I think, for that to ever happen. But anyways, definitely something extra to consider. Maybe it's a gimmick, but definitely extra peace of mind. Let me turn the scooter around to the other side quick and we'll look at the charge ports. They are very good charge ports. So this is a new type of charge port here that I hadn't seen it until I got the Splash Thunder over here. Also uses this charge port. That's the first time I've seen it, but this is the second time I've seen it now, and I really like this charge port. First off, it's all plastic, so you can't shock or do anything to screw this up by being an idiot. So you unscrew it like this. It is directional, so you have to line up that notch on the top there. Once it's in though, then you can screw it down. It screws down just a little bit, and then it's secured. Why is this superior than most? Is because most other scooters are still using metal charge ports, metal caps right here, and metal charging plugs. And so all of this sort of turns into like a shock hazard, whereas on this, it's completely plastic and nobody's gonna get shocked. Nobody's gonna have an issue here. My one only gripe is that the hole is a little small here to get your fingers in. As you can see, it's probably my only complaint on the whole scooter right now, is that Takes a little bit of jimmying it with your fingers like this, but you can see it's not like it's terrible. You just reach in there and give it a couple spins, and boom, it's tight. Not even the biggest complaint in the world, but definitely I did tell him maybe make this cutout just a hair bigger somehow, so that you can fit your fingers in here a little easier for, you know, guys with fat fingers or whatever. This does have nice LED lighting on the side. And there is an app for it that you can modify called Dual Coast Strip. It's actually the same app that several other brands use as well. So they're starting to use a common app for the app control of these lights. So you can choose your color and stuff. Kickstand, I'll mention as well, is absolutely beautiful. Smooth motion with it, if you can see that. And really holds the scooter up well. Nice, good size. I like this kickstand a lot. It's probably better than both the VSET one or the Cabo one, or the InMotion one for that matter. It might be the nicest kickstand. Let's get a few measurements out here. The Gspace isn't a whole lot bigger, but it is definitely noticeably bigger. Just when you're looking down on it like this, it's a big, big, big scooter. Start with deck width here. Looking at just under 9 inches here, 8 3/4 on the Wolf, about 10 inches on the Mars. Check our distance here. It's about 20 inches. And on the Gspace, looking at 22 inches, so 2 inches longer. There's our clearance on this scooter. It's about 8 inches, almost 9 inches there. I don't know if you can see that. Check the wheelbase here quick. Kickstand's in our way. I'll measure on this side. You're just gonna have to believe me. It is 38.5, 39 inches. Almost 42 inches there. 3 inches longer, inch higher, inch wider, longer deck. It's a significantly bigger scooter, you know, inch or two around all the way than a Wolf, which a Wolf is already a big scooter. So this is a big boy. You gotta realize that when you're getting it. This is about as big as they come. At the end of the day, it's a really well-built, super strong scooter. Let me show you the suspension real quick here. I like the front and the rear. Both suspensions are really good. One measurement we need to get is from here all the way to the top to the handlebar. 36 inches. Same thing on my RS over here right now. It's about 37 inches. So they're right on point with how high the handlebars are from the deck. All around, just a fantastic scooter. I do think we should talk quickly about the acceleration, the braking, and the suspension, and how it compares with the VSET, the Wolf, and the InMotion RS here. First, we'll start with the acceleration. It's obviously extremely strong acceleration, but it also has a very well mapped throttle, so it's very smooth. I don't think it needs any real improvements, but I do think it could be a little better right on takeoff. There's not a lot more they could do to improve this throttle. Most of it now comes down to your ability to use the throttle and the user. Compare that with, say, the VSET 11 Plus or the Wolf Warrior that just have a much more unrefined throttle. It's extremely jerky to ride either of those scooters. The InMotion RS still sits in a league of its own. I don't know how they've managed to make the throttle so smooth on that scooter, but it's definitely still a step up from the Mars. And I'm not saying the Mars is bad at all. I'd give the Mars like a 9 out of 10 on its throttle application. But the InMotion is a 10 out of 10, and it's still the gold standard for me. I hopped back on that scooter yesterday, and it's just so ridiculously smooth. Something about the throttle and the mapping is just superior. So I can't quite give this the 10 out of 10 yet on that, but it's close. Braking. There's a little bit of the same thing going on with the braking, where this scooter does have really good mechanical braking with the 3mm nut brakes. But It's also not quite as smooth on the electronic braking as the InMotion RS. I'd give it more like the same thing, 8 or a 9 out of 10, whereas the InMotion, I'm giving it a 10 out of 10 on those. Is it a bad thing? No, it's still a phenomenal scooter and it still is a very good score. Now the VSET and the Wolf, that's another story. Their VSET braking is horrid. It does use nut brakes, but they're only 2mm brakes. It's such a big and fast, heavy scooter that you end up eating through those rotors within 500 miles. When I had that scooter, I was doing a brake job every 500 miles with the new rotor. That is an issue. And the part of the problem was that they do not allow the e-braking at all on that scooter until it gets down to half battery. So once it's at half battery, you're allowed to e-brake, but until then, you're basically just riding on your mechanical brakes, and they can't handle that scooter. That's just a fact about that VSET 11 Plus. The brakes are not sufficient. As far as the Wolf, that actually has very nice brakes. It has some zoom brakes that are 3mm as well. Quite a difference there between the VSET and the Wolf. The VSET, where it's struggling, the Wolf actually has decent braking, but it has its own issue where the electronic braking is extremely jerky. So the second you even slightly pull the brakes, which would be fine by themselves, you're stuck with a jerky e-brake pulling you to a stop very quickly, compressing your shocks, the whole bit. It's very uncomfortable to brake on the Wolf, in my opinion. And it's something not a lot of people talk about or address because I think they think it's normal, but it's not when you compare it with all these other scooters. And this Mars is the same way, where you could simply use the mechanical brakes, I think. And since they're 3mm, they're quite strong, they'd be good. But I do have the e-braking on set on level 1 and it's decent. It's not jerking me. There's no sort of just excessive braking out of it like the Wolf. The Wolf, I could not turn it down. Even on the lowest setting, it is extremely, extremely harsh. So this, more refined on the braking for sure. But once again, I give the InMotion has the best braking and e-braking with 3mm zoom brakes. Plus, it also has very, very smooth e-braking. So it gets the 10 out of 10 still. The Gspace, not far behind it though. I'll give this a 9 out of 10 on the braking once again. Whereas I'm giving this VSET probably a 5 out of 10 and this Wolf probably a 4 out of 10. They're just both terrible. The VSET, at least you can ride it. It's fine while it's working, but you have to constantly maintain it. The Wolf is just unrideable as it is. It's just a terrible, terrible braking setup. I don't know who designed or literally lets that out of the factory like that. Third, let's talk about the suspension. Obviously, this has a very special BMW design suspension that nothing else is really competing with yet. Is it the best though? Not totally sure. It is pretty hard when you're hitting 50, 60 miles an hour and you hit a big bump. It's pretty hard. It's not, maybe I don't have it dialed in correctly yet, but it's a little bit harsher definitely than the InMotion. And this is not like a pro InMotion video at all. I just consider this RS the gold standard over here right now for hyper scooters. It's the best I've tested, and so I need to kind of compare it as a baseline. And at the end of the day, this is really close, and it's the same price, a little bit more range, a little bit more acceleration because of higher amps, but the RS definitely is still a little bit more preferable to ride for me personally. And I'm not hating on this Gspace at all. If you guys buy this, you're gonna love it. It's insanely amazing, okay? It's an absolute dream to ride this scooter. I love riding it. I can't say that enough. I am not talking bad about this Gspace. I just hold that InMotion in such a high regard right now because it is so good to ride. And Jordan feels the same way with her InMotion RS Lite, that it is just the smoothest scooter. It's gonna be hard to find something that has that good of acceleration, braking, and suspension. And this is close. This is really close. But still, even on suspension, I give this 9 out of 10, whereas I give this InMotion a perfect score again. It's just a really, really good scooter. Everything else is trying to live up to this. This is a new brand and everybody's sort of copying each other but innovating at the same time. It's a really interesting time for scooters. So we really need to take everything into account, all the scooters, and I really wish Dualtron would send me one, but I know it's not going to stack up to these. I think that they're nervous. They're kind of not sure enough about their scooter, because I do get requests for Dualtrons. Nami, I would think about picking up a new Nami. I heard there's a 72 volt blast coming out. If that happens, I'm probably gonna get that scooter and add it to the mix here and compare everything. You know, at the end of the day, I'm not stuck in saying that any one brand is the best. I'm totally willing to update my opinions on all of that. But right now, InMotion is the gold standard for me. This is a very, very good close second. And like I was saying, I think if you're a bigger person, you don't mind stepping up a bit more. And it is a huge scooter. So if you're willing to handle all that, you'll be fine. You'll love this scooter. It's definitely 100% a buy recommendation from me. Even with only 300 miles on it, I'm confident in this scooter. I'm gonna keep riding it, like I said, probably all next year. See how many miles we can get on these bad boys. It's a fucking blessing out here. We're doing this, man. Thank you so much, all you guys, if you watched till the end here. I know this was a super long video, crazy long video. So much to talk about on this scooter. Just thank you. Thanks for hanging out. I could talk about scooters all day, and some of these brands definitely don't want me to talk about them too much because they know I'm gonna start complaining. But this scooter, definitely, I could go on. And we will go on in some more videos on this. So stay tuned. If you're not looking for 11,000 watts, I totally get that. They do have a slightly smaller version, the GT. I think we'll end up getting that for Jordan in the spring, hopefully, and have matching scooters, sort of like we do with the RSs, so we can go ride these in style. Let's get out of the garage. We've been here long enough. Let's go rip this bad boy. It's kind of unfortunate they sent this to me at the end of the year here, and our weather's starting to deteriorate a bit. So this is like one of the last good days. It's not even that good. It's like 55 and super windy. Luckily the wind is from the east to the west, and we should be able to find a north-south road, get some tests in. It may not be full top speed because it is a little bit chilly today and a little windy. I'm also more geared up than normal. I mean, in the summer, you wear less layers, you weigh less wind drag as well. All of that's gonna affect it a bit. I'll be very happy if we get 62 on the draggy. That's about where these 72 volt scooters usually come out at. Before we go though, I'm gonna make sure and turn on my scooter to full power. I can enter the settings. I have been riding this scooter on number 4 for the acceleration strength. It is very fast on 4, but we're gonna turn it up to 5 so we can get our full test. As you guys can see, now it's at 5. I like the settings on this scooter. It's nice and simple and easy, not completely impossible to figure out. Some scooters are getting really complicated for no reason, and I like to keep it more in the middle where you have some settings that you need, but most of the time you just leave the scooter how it is and ride, right? You don't need to be changing settings all the time, so what's the point of having a bajillion settings? It's uphill into the wind. Up a big hill too. That's not a small hill. Hopefully you guys can hear me today. It's pretty windy. I've got the DJI shoved up under my mouth, and we may end up losing the audio, so I'm just gonna talk really loud in case this thing goes flying while we're going 65 or whatever. Thanks for watching. I love when you guys stop by and you get to check out a super fast scooter like this. It's a really, really fast scooter. See how accurate the dash is? It says we're going about 27, 28 right now, and maybe about 1 fast on the dash. That's pretty good, pretty accurate. Cornering on it is very good now with the PMTs. You can hit that corner. See what we can get with the crosswind. It's not the most ideal day to do tests. We got the pass, let's get it. Scooter is really, really fast. We'll be passing grannies all day on this thing. I think it actually is faster than any Prius or Yaris, pound for pound. I'm feeling like the wind is gonna affect this test by a few miles an hour, so we can't give this a real test until spring, guys, but I will keep this scooter around until spring, and we'll retest when it's like 75, 80 degrees and nice. Let's just reset here just to see. Maybe this will measure what we can do or what a typical car does 0 to 30. Either way, but it's a good base test here. This guy. Let's see what this baby's got. This is a perfect test here. We got full battery, straight away. Let's get it. And you're gone. 0 to 52 there. Verified 10 seconds. Into the wind, guys. This is not a chill day, and it's a cold day. We can get that down definitely more. Oh yeah, this guy's gonna get out of our way here. Let's do a top speed. Pretty flat. Check the camera. Woo! Is that 62? 62? Did I fucking predict this? How did I know? How did I know? It's like every 72 volt scooter out there tops out at 62 around here. Let's do a U-turn and try and rip it back. These are nice, flat, straight kind of spots here. Looks like it's a beautiful spot right here. Let's do it. You ready? It's plenty fast, guys. It's plenty fast. 11,000 watts is super fast. I don't know how else to describe it. Even in this windy, terrible weather, you can just tell it's eating up. It's fucking shredding the rubber. That was fucking awesome. This thing's awesome on level 5, but honestly for me, like I might turn it down to 4 just for long-term riding, because 4 is fast enough to get in trouble. 5 here, we're like pushing the max. The scooter and it is fast, baby. It is fast. This is actually kind of interesting because this is a quick enough road that like cars are pushing it. And like, I've never really measured what do cars actually accelerate at. Like, how fast does your scooter need to be to keep up with people on a road like this? That's an interesting question that I don't think anybody else has ever answered. The question, the answer is not that fast. Uh-oh. We're running low on juice on our draggy here. Let's hit one more top speed test and then I can charge my phone. Here comes our chance. Woo, that wind is something else. Trying to hit top speed here, a little bit uphill, and then it's gonna flatten out right by the jail here. Shout out to everyone that's in jail. I'm sorry, that sucks, I've been there. But someday you do better, you can be doing this for your job, riding around hyper scooters. Woo! I love my life, let's go, baby. Got some brakes coming up here, let's just brake now. I'm gonna pull over here and call that a good test. This is a famous corner, if you guys know. This is where Kyle camps out and gets his speed. Let me charge my phone, and that's enough for the test, but let's go rip it some more and talk about this scooter a lot. This scooter deserves a nice long review for you guys. It's expensive. It's gonna be about $3,500, $4 grand when you're all done with it, all upgrades and everything. Look at these dangerous motherfuckers. I'll fall, I'll bite. You're doing it wrong though, you gotta get up here. You got fucking owned. that? Left his girlfriend waiting back on her moped. See if they follow us. Is it a fast stop? Let's see. So good. It's giving me jello legs already after like 7 miles. Whew.
Oh, this you crazy mother.
This is not a beginner scooter at all. I don't know if your motorcycle can do that. It's a lot bigger, bro. It's a lot bigger. I've had enough of this strip. Let's go rip some corners. Scooter's fucking ripping like crazy. We gotta find a hiding spot, change the camera, the camera battery. Something I gotta put away for the winter and not ride right now, or they're gonna give me many tickets on this thing because it's so fast. Alright, we definitely lost a little fur ball on the mic. Hopefully you guys heard most of that. I'm gonna order some more of those, I guess, and maybe super glue it on there or something. I don't know yet. Shout out to all the motorcycle dudes out there and dudettes. I think that scooters like this are an easy crossover, which having a motorcycle is great. But if you have this as well and you use it for other shorter trips around town, just in town, take your bike on the highway, it's obviously better than this. But I'd argue any day this is more fun, more agile, and more efficient in town. Even lane splitting, look at how small it is compared to a motorcycle. It's probably a foot shorter in width. You do any sort of like real riding out in the streets, you'll see its advantages real quick of having this super skinny, super fast profile machine. Not to talk crap about motorcycles at all, guys. I think you should ride those too. If you want to switch it up, definitely check out a scooter like this. It's basically like a motorcycle you're standing on. It's insane. You will absolutely love it.
Downhill, baby. 65 on the dash, 67.